creature.
Pickle.
Did you grow up with the NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV. They're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Comics, games, movies, music, and TV. They're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Now we are officially on our 3-week or so hiatus that we do. We normally do 2 weeks in the summer, but we think we're doing 2.5-ish or so, maybe 3, simply because it's time for a break. But we made sure we wanted to have content ready to go, so we still have a few things on the go. This is sort of a mini episode, so a mini twig. We're not doing any. It's not like a Turd or Treasure where we have a ton of reviews or things that are in the backlog, or it's not a regular Twig show because we don't have really news to talk about. Well, there's been plenty of news. There's just a few things that we're going to have sort of staggered out each week that we've recorded reviews for in the past that we want to make sure that instead of putting them all out at once, we're going to put 1 to 2 or so, and they'll be released midweek like this is. Now, we're also going to have some other shows scheduled to come out in between, but this is sort of just little bite-sized samples of what the normal full-size shows are while we take our break, so we can have things prepped through the magic of the internet, where we can actually have shows scheduled a week or 2 in advance. This is a good thing for us, so we can actually recharge our batteries, because it is hot out, and it's only going to get hotter from what it looks like. By the time this airs, it looks like we're going to be hitting 40 degrees Celsius, which is basically melt into the chair temperatures. I'm not looking forward to that. So for this episode, what we have are 2 reviews. We have a review of a Anker Thunderbolt 3 dock, some pretty cool tech there, as well as a preview. So not a full review, but I would say like an early preview build of Skully, a clay action platformer game, which is pretty neat so far. But again, it's not a final review. It is just a preview of what was seen, which is it's something interesting. I'll put links in the description for both products, and I'll come back at the end after I do these 2 reviews go in a row and just sort of give an update on what's been going on, what we've been doing during the break, and because I believe I'll have recorded something by then. And we'll be back, I guess. I think the plan is at the end of the month for the regular shows, but we are still going to have some more content that we're going to have sort of breaking news as we go. I think there's a couple of events that we're going to have to come back from hiatus, even if it's just for a short little episode or 2.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
I was given the opportunity to get a little bit of early access and do a preview build of the new game Skully. It's sort of a claymation 3D looking thing. It's not stop motion, but everything is the look and feel of what you'd see in like a claymation type of movie. It's an action platformer sort of adventure title where you can use powers to move things around. Your character can change shape and transform based on clay and mud puddles and sort of things that it gets into. It's kind of an interesting throwback and feel to something you would have seen almost 20 years ago, I think, in that genre. Now, the basic background story is you play as a character named Skully who has a second chance at life basically a god reanimates you through the power of magical clay, and you sort of have to find your way by platforming, like you're skipping around, jumping, and rolling through the environment, moving platforms, and solving logic puzzles to make your way through. And I've got to play about an hour or so of the preview build just to get a feel for it. So it's not a final review; it's more of a just like an early preview. And from what I've seen, it's actually pretty good. It's coming out in about a month or so, I believe, at the beginning of August, and I think it's going to be a bit of a sleeper in that most people probably won't know that it's out, but it is something I think is going to have legs and keep moving. So here are some of the key features that were included with it. You hop, skip, and jump and roll your way to victory. You overcome obstacles across the island. You can transform into 3 distinct forms to change up how you play and how you solve the puzzles. Then there is a fully voiced dialogue and all these cutscenes to give the story and envelop the game. I didn't see a ton of things past the 1 hour or so of gameplay that I did for the preview build, but there is a sort of charm to it. It feels like, what if you took a GameCube era adventure platform puzzle title, and then gave it the sheen of the modern gen graphics. So for that alone, it brought out the nostalgia feel in me, and I'm pretty interested in seeing how the rest of it plays out once it finally releases. It's going to be available pretty much on everything: PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. Now, I played it on the Steam in the preview build, so the final game may be slightly different. As we're getting really close to the end, I think it's more of a case of they sort of had us in a sandbox environment, sort of keep us in a certain area. But the retail price on it is actually pretty cheap. It's looking at about $30 American. So if you're in Canada and the rest of the world, adjust that accordingly. But Modus Games is putting it out, and it's pretty good, I'd say. Like I've played a lot of the early access titles in the last year or two, or preview builds, and I've sort of sometimes come out going, oh, I don't know if this is going to be good. This one's actually pretty good, and it's one to keep an eye on.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
It's time to review something a little different here on the show. I have the Anker PowerExpand Elite 13-in-1 Thunderbolt 3 dock. That's a mouthful, but what it is you remember back in the day when laptops used to have like docks that you put in to expand the ports and that sort of stuff. They've never really went away, but they only really went to the higher end products. But now that most laptops are coming with less and less I/O built in, and streamlining themselves to either have, a few USB-C ports or, maybe Thunderbolt if it's a higher end one, especially on like the Macs where you get like 2 ports and that's it, one to charge and one to expand. The advantage with Thunderbolt being that it can be daisy chained and it's just so versatile and powerful, and it uses a PCI Express lanes to do everything. I had not had a chance to check one out before, and Anker said, hey, would you like to check out our new dock that just came out? And I went, sure. I have a couple devices I could try it on, but I made sure that I had my brother come over because he has the brand new MacBook Pro that came out this year, and we wanted to see if it was enough to, one, power it through pass-through, as well as expand it and use all the ports at once without, any issues with connectivity or with heat or something to that extent. So we made sure that we tested it for about 2 to 3 hours, doing a bunch of different tasks. And for the most part, everything works the way it's supposed to. First of all, I'm surprised at how small these docks have gotten. I remember them being pretty big monstrosities back in the day. Now, it comes at a price. It's $300 for this, but you're generally pairing something like this with a higher end laptop, or if you don't have a home desktop, you're looking to have this on your computer desk with your monitors, multi-monitor setup, and use as a integral part of your laptop experience, especially when at home. So it's not crazy considering the price of Thunderbolt devices to begin with. It's actually cheaper than some of the other in its class higher end Thunderbolt docks that do everything. So the big deal is it's Thunderbolt 3. So it handles up to 40 gigabits of data per second across the platform on there. The actual unit itself, if I have to describe the size, it's about the size of, it's not much bigger than an old school cassette, audio cassette Walkman, which is surprising. It does have a fairly large and hefty power brick that you'll leave plugged into the wall, and having the power outside of it is probably what saves a lot of heat from it. It is an all metal design with the sides designed to obviously be the heatsink for it. So it will heat up if you lay it on. You don't want to put this on top of the power supply for it, and you don't want to tuck this in somewhere where there's no ventilation, because Thunderbolt being what it is, it's a hefty, power-hungry device, especially when this is enough to power your laptop. Up to 85 watts of charging for a laptop, which is pretty much the max high end you're going to get from power delivery powered through Thunderbolt. So it'll power pretty much any Mac or MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or other laptop that supports powered through Thunderbolt port, which is pretty sweet, because a lot of the other ones on the market at around this price have a maximum output of 65 watts. So that 85 means that you won't have a trickle charge where it slowly drains it as you're using it. So you can use this while it's on, have many devices plugged in all at once, and it will still charge the laptop fully and keep it charged and not have to dim the screen or anything while you're using it. It also has an 18 watt charging port for your phone, so you can do quick charge through that. 4K HDMI. It has a gigabit Ethernet port on it. Full audio. Nothing super fancy with the audio. 48 kilohertz. So, but it does work, especially if a lot of the laptops now don't have headphone jacks. So this is something that can be useful as it replaces an external sound card. A bunch of USB A ports, standard USB ports. A few USB-C Gen 2s, meaning they're faster, 5 or 10 gigabit, and SD and micro SD ports that support USB 3 through them. So you're getting a pretty good bundle for the money here. It has obviously an on and off switch on it as well. Now, the layout of it is interesting. On the back, you have obviously power in, your gigabit Ethernet, 3 of your USB A ports, your 2 Thunderbolt ports. One of them is a 15 watt standard Thunderbolt port, which is used for daisy chaining your storage devices or anything like that. And then one is the one that has a picture of a computer. That's what you use to do pass-through to a computer. On the front of it, you have your micro SD slot and your SD card slot, your multi-audio in and out headphone, 2 USB-C ports, and a USB-A port as well. All of the USB ports can be used to charge, but not every one of them is quick charge or certified for higher than 1 amp. So you got one port on there that's going to be good for just standard stuff like USB keys. And then you've got a few on there that are good for faster, like plugging in an external SSD drive. And then the USB-C ports are good for driving monitors. You can do that as well. From there, you can determine, and they even, they're smart. They actually have labels on the actual device. So you got your standard USB-C ports, and then you got one that says power delivery, which is the 18 watt one that's enough for charging your phones or for iPads, that sort of thing. So it's small enough you can put in your backpack and take it around with you. I found that we plugged in a couple NVMe external USB sticks that we had put together ourselves, and it was as fast, if not faster, than my regular computer running natively, plugging in through USB-C on that. The only thing we did not have is a Thunderbolt 3 external storage solution. So it didn't have that to test, if it gets full native speed that way. I'm going to assume it does because it worked just fine with everything else. I plugged in a few USB 3, USB 2 drives, and we were transferring things back and forth all around, and just trying to tax it and see if we could heat it up. We plugged in a few monitors, one through HDMI, one through, my brother has a Thunderbolt one, he brought that. We also tried USB-C, and we encountered an issue initially where we couldn't get USB-C monitors to work when we also had other things plugged in at once. And it turns out it was just a firmware update that was needed for the device. So this is something that you can get firmware updates for. There were a couple other complaints about it, the early adopters, and my unit was like a day one unit, so it's very possible that I had maybe a one from the factory that wasn't flashed with the newest firmware because I got it early. Now, as far as what that bodes for the future of the system, most will probably come with the updated firmware. If not, Anker and other companies like that they're really good. When you're buying a premium product like this, they generally support it for a long time and will provide firmware updates that was pretty simple and easy to just double click, install the firmware update, and then from there we were able to use all of the monitors and configurations we wanted to use on it without any issues at all. So it is a really versatile device, and I'm going to suggest that if you are investing in like an Apple laptop or any of these ultra thin laptops that only use either USB-C or they use Thunderbolt for their connectivity, you're probably not going to find something better at that $300 US price point. And Anker for years has been one of my go-tos for all of my external power bricks for charging phones, cables. That they're one of the better ones out there. So it's nice to see that on the higher end of stuff, they're providing really good products like this. I'll put a link in the description to check it out. It's actually going to save a fair amount of space on my desk as far as having to have different devices plugged in. I can actually sort of tuck it behind and just run cables up to it and not have to worry about plugging in multiple things at once. I can actually leave a bunch of extension cords for the USB cables and sort of do some cable management, leave that on the top of the desk, and then whenever I have to plug in an external hard drive or device, just pop it in there and know that it's able to provide power to the laptop and all the connectivity I need out of one port.
Basically using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Okay, so through the magic of the internet, again, this is recorded at a different day, sort of give an update on what's going on. So in this episode, you would have heard the two reviews or preview and review of Skully and the Anker Thunderbolt dock. And so what have we been up to in the first week of our I guess, hiatus, our summer break, other than melting into the, or burning up to a crisp outside, we've been doing some hardware revisions and things at home. Birdman needed some, I guess, updates and upgrades, and to sort of help him get better viewing angles because he's had issues with some of the games not having text so small he can't read, especially at the angle he has to sit at, from where he plays because of his disability. We were able to go in and get a new mount for his television setup that allows it to pull out and swivel so that it can be angled pretty much exactly where he needs to see, which is going to help a fair bit with some games. Now, some games are still going to have ridiculously stupid small text and no ability to make it larger for those that have seeing and vision impairments, but that's a discussion for another day. But the idea that it'll be easier to check and make sure that he's getting the best viewing possible, that's going to make all the difference for him. So there was a bit of that, but you can only do so much in the heat, so we didn't want to do too much. But that is done, so he's got a little bit better viewing angle set up, and made sure we calibrated it all for him, so that's good. On my end, I have been working on a few different reviews. I've got a larger one that's probably going to be a single episode by itself coming next week, or it might be a part of another two thing, just like this episode was, and that's on Wi-Fi 6 technology and mesh routers, and just sort of how they're set up, what's different about them, and I've just sort of been doing research and comparing it because I actually do have a background in networking. I did take Cisco certification back almost 20 years ago, and I worked in network support for several years in my youth. So I can sort of go, I'm not by any means a super expert, but I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to stuff. This is all, new technology to me. So that's something I'm working on. That'll be a bit of an extended review and maybe a little bit of a history lesson or something. Not 100% sure just yet because, again, technically we're on break. So it's just a matter of when I have extra time that I want to spend on it, I'll work on that. So other than that, we have coming this week another Loose Cannon episode. This one is on American Ninja. We'll have more syndicated episodes that I'll find a place to post them from our friends over at Nerd to the Third Power. I know they've got 1 or 2 episodes I think that are coming out, so we'll have that. We also are going to have more. I think we're doing a collaboration, or I know Birdman's doing a collaboration. We might syndicate from Andrew Roebuck. They're doing, I believe, the Power Rangers movies, a discussion. And we're going to have Andrew Roebuck on to talk about Spookies, because Birdman and I have watched that, and Birdman can talk endlessly about it. I was confused the whole time. So that'll be interesting to talk about. And then we're also going to be doing a loose cannon on the trilogy of the Angel films, and Avenging Angel, and that from Vinegar Syndrome. So we've gotten through watching the first film, which was interesting, fun, a product of its time. A lot of stuff that wouldn't fly nowadays, but in the context of the film was pretty good. And then we're going to have to watch the second and third one, and then we'll do a sort of an overview of all of them as the show. And then sort of the website stuff's been on a bit of a back burner, but that's got to be prioritized. Probably in week 2 or week 3 we'll go into, or maybe closer to the end of the month. The idea was originally to have it launched early, but it's too much going on right now. So we're going to get that stuff going. It's going to be the summer project, I think. So that's what it is. So even though we're technically off, and this weekend we're going to be watching the Devolver Digital, their version of their press event, the Ubisoft Forward press event, Tuesday's Stadia event, and then I guess at the end of the week is the end of that week or the week after is the Microsoft event. So we're going to have probably 2 prototypes recorded, one for the first batch and then one for Microsoft, because that'll probably be more substantial on its own. So that's when we're coming back to actually record together. But other than that, we're sort of recording our reviews individually on the spot if we have things in our back burner, and we'll put out more little mini episodes like this if we have enough. So I guess until next time, talk to everybody later.
Well, that's our show.
All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at thisweekingeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at thisweekingeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.